This is the second and final part of teaching your dog the retrieving exercise. In part 1, I demonstrated how to teach the dog to retrieve on the ground. According to the IGP program, your dog should also be able to retrieve over the hedge and over the climbing wall. I teach these exercises using pole turning, similar to how I teach the send-out exercise. I will soon be posting a video on that. Why pole turning? It's the ideal way to have your dog retrieve over the hedge and climbing wall in a positive manner, avoiding the old-fashioned approach of pulling the dogs over the climbing wall with long lines and a lot of pressure and force. We're doing it in my own positive way so that you can see that you can make every dog retrieve perfectly in a positive manner. We start with retrieving over the hedge, on a very low setting, and importantly, without a dumbbell yet. Do not teach this exercise in combination with the dumbbell. If you do, I can guarantee that it will take a long time for your dog to enjoy jumping over the hedge and climbing wall. I approach it in the same way as the send-out exercise. I place a pole and have the dog turn around it, with the only difference being that now the dog has to jump over the hedge. Since we start with the hedge at a very low setting, this exercise is learned in no time. But sometimes I go too fast. If you go too fast, the dog refuses. It refuses to jump over the low hedge because, although the dog already knows the send-out exercise and pole turning very well, it doesn't understand why it has to jump over the hedge. Just be patient and start again. When your dog does it well, don't just click, but also let him know with your voice that you are very happy. When your dog starts to enjoy jumping over the low hedge, you can do two things. Firstly, you can slowly raise the hedge a little bit. Also, when you are sure that your dog will jump over the hedge, add the command over precisely when the dog jumps over the hedge. And then, it's time. Now it's time to let the dog jump over the highest setting of the hedge, which is 1 meter. And that is very high for a dog. That's why I really pump up the dog beforehand to make him jump over it. I want speed because when you start practicing with the dumbbell later, it always comes at the expense of speed. Here you see the exercise with the dumbbell. But remember that I started again with the hedge at the lowest setting. Slowly, every day, you raise the hedge a little bit until your dog can retrieve over a meter-high hedge. Once your dog can jump over the meter-high hedge, it's time to start with the climbing wall. It's best if you have a climbing wall that you can set very low. Unfortunately, most associations I know don't have a climbing wall that can be set as low as this one. You can even lay this climbing wall completely flat on the ground. Ideal, because now you can teach the exercise in a positive way, without lines, and without forcing the dog over a climbing wall that's still too high. Take it easy and let the dog learn to walk over the climbing wall. It's important to teach your dog to walk all the way to the end of the climbing wall. It's not intended for your dog to jump off the last part of the climbing wall. That's why I reward the dog very low at the end of the climbing wall, preventing him from jumping the last part, which ultimately is bad for the joints. We raise the climbing wall a little bit higher every day, until the climbing wall reaches a height of 1 meter 80 centimeters. This is the height your dog must clear in an IGP exam. Again, we teach this exercise without the dumbbell until your dog thoroughly enjoys going over the climbing wall. Once again, we make use of pole turning, a technique we know from teaching the send-out exercise and retrieving over the hedge. Then, you calmly repeat the process. Every day, raise it a little higher, until your dog understands that it needs to walk back and forth over the climbing wall. Practice with fewer cues, ensuring that you don't walk all the way with your dog and provide cues. You simply send your dog over the climbing wall, and when he returns, reward him low. This is roughly what it looks like. This climbing wall is just under 1 meter 80 centimeters. It needs to be a bit quieter, but you can already see that the dog enjoys retrieving over the climbing wall. Remember always to start without the dumbbell. Gradually raise the climbing wall so that the dog willingly and joyfully performs the exercise. Here, I demonstrate the complete retrieving exercise, in this case, an IGP-2 exercise. I use the heavier IGP-2 dumbbell. During training, I still hold this dog a bit, because he enjoys it so much that he sometimes goes for the dumbbell too early. He picks up the dumbbell neatly and brings it back to me quite forcefully. I would prefer him to do it a bit softer, but I've taught the perfect recall exercise very well. You can see that I still give the dog some cues, which would cost points on an exam. I bring back the IGP-2 dumbbell to the standard and pick up the IGP-1 dumbbell. This dog follows quite well, but he's not entirely ready for exams yet. He still needs to be held during the retrieving exercise over the hedge, which is not allowed during an exam. He jumps neatly over the hedge, almost at the highest setting, but he brings back the dumbbell a bit too forcefully, so much so that I even have to take a step back, which would cost a lot of points on an exam. The climbing wall is not yet at 180 centimeters. This dog can do it, but I deliberately don't do it too often because it's not good for his joints. It's not perfect yet, but we're almost there. Just need to train out a bit of assistance, and this dog will be ready. If you want to train positively with your dog, start with the free clicker training courses part 1, 2, and 3. Making these videos is a lot of work, and we hope that if you find our videos helpful, you'll support us. Help us with a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, a small effort but crucial for us.